second. I wanted to try, get a little technical and whatnot.
There you go. There you go. All right. So you let me know how you want to start.
All righty.
You want to do like ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Not children of all ages. Are you recording now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just wanted to ask, welcome, Orpheus. And how's everything going with you today?
Everything is great. Everything is great. I'm loving it. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. It's a little late on my end. Not late, but it's like 6:35. So the sun is coming down, but I'm happy that, your conversation is bringing me up. So
I like that. I like that. Notice I have the evening. I'm already ready for evening. Got the candles going. The boudoir is set for our intimate engagement.
I see, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready.
Just have options, what I mean? Just, ready to go.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that toy in the back.
I have toys all over it. I love these lovely wall mounts that actually hold all the toys. So all the toys have their own mount and racket, and it's wonderful.
That is actually wonderful. But you're the Orpheus Black, so I expect nothing less.
I hope I can live up to that.
Oh man. Okay. So for those who don't know who you are, just in case they've been living under a rock or they're new to the industry, please give everybody your name, your pronouns, and a little bit about you.
My name is Orpheus Black. My pronouns would be master or sir.
Oh, okay. All right. Start with the big guns. All right.
It's important because, I think there's an interesting conversation about how you identify and how you are identified and the cohesion around that. And so I like sir, right? Or master. Sir is usually used for a more masculine tone. So I refer in the masculine, and master is regards to my level of expertise in the field that I'm in. Just like you would say doctor, right? So I love to be described in either of those terms. And, I've been doing this for 25 years. I have 3 master's titles in leather across the United States. I teach and pretty much do everything that has to do with kink and sexuality. And I've been doing that for a long time, whether it's porn, I've done erotic TV shows, I've done stuff in the music business. I've been pretty much across the board. If it has to do with sex, I've probably been in it.
Okay, that's lit. And I know you mentioned that you have masters in leather. For those of us who don't know, because I'm one of the people who I've heard you mention it before, but I don't really know what that means. So just in case for people that who are just like me, that's like, hey, so what's that? Can you give like a little summary about that?
Wow. Leather is such a huge title. So let me tell you what leather is. First of all, leather is a lifestyle. Leather is a lifestyle that revolves around the gay community. It was started about turn of the century, around World War I, World War II. And basically what it means is that people are into a community that is rooted in kink and gay practices. And so basically people came home from war, partied in France, partied in all these other places, learned that they had different likes and kinks and different behaviors. And instead of buying a house, they bought motorcycles, put leather vests on, put leather chaps on, went out there and just built these little micro communities where it's about have kind of this biker mentality where you have to earn your way up, earn your leathers, earn your spot in the community, earn your place. But it's also so people get to trust you and develop a like for you and see that you have the desire and the wherewithal to kind of adhere to the cultural norms that have been presented to you around sex and sexuality. And so that's what the leather community is rooted in. The leather community will also create titles. And basically one that I've won was master slave title. So me and my wife went to a leather community, went through a contest, did all the cultural rigors to say that we know who we are, we know what we're talking about, and we can represent this community to the world. We've won that title 3 times in 3 different places.
Wow. And for those people who don't know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but which wife? Because I know you are Holly. So, I want to make sure we give credit where credit is due.
Well, me and Indigo, thank you for for saying that. Me and Indigo have won that title. So basically, we have 3 leather titles between the 2 of us,
Okay.
and we basically were given permission to go out and represent this community, kink, BDSM, leather, to the world. And also, I've been capped, which means that someone somewhere with some authority said that they felt that my level of knowledge was in line with theirs and brought me into their lineage of master, because we
Hmm.
have earned that place within their lineage. And so that is a wonderful honor that's been bestowed on me. I've received a Lifetime Achievement Award from DomCon, which is a large convention in Los Angeles, and a number of other titles along the way. And I'm
Wow.
also the founder of Cirque du Sade, which was the first and largest dominance organization, professional dominance organization for dominance specifically.
Hmm.
And it was called Cirque du Sade. So,
Mm. Okay, okay.
man, I could keep going.
I was just curious because I remember I was watching a Netflix documentary where Margaret Cho talked a little bit about that in terms of the leather community. So I know it's on Netflix, that one section. But I wasn't sure how it evolved, especially now that we're from where it started to where it is now. Because even though kink is starting to get more mainstream, there are still some nuances that are still kind of in the dark.
Yeah, and like I say, I think it's really interesting to think about, if you think that like the 80s and 90s were repressive, can you imagine like the early 1900s or mid 1900s and how repressive they were, and how locked into social norms they were? And leather was actually a kind of rebuking of those norms and mores, which is really interesting to me. And when you look at it, these men and women went to war, they fought in other countries. But on their downtime, they managed to find out something about themselves, who they are. I guess because life was so fleeting, they had to kind of speed up that process. And without the constraints of society, without the constraints of the United States, they were able to find themselves, and they wanted to come here and continue to live as authentically as humanly possible. And so buying the motorcycle kind of symbolized the freedom, the untied to this narrative, putting on the leather vest and the leather pants, that uniform of a biker at that time gave them a community to be a part of. And to me, it gave them a process to go through, an initiation rite that other people would have to come into. So it's a very beautiful thing to do. And since its inception, it's been opened to not only people who are gay or lesbian, but trans, het, bi. It's an all accepting community, and it's a beautiful thing. And I love the fact that people like Margaret Cho, who is a comedian, is out about being kinky, I believe, if she did
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
documentary is called Sex Explained.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. That she's out there and talking about this, because it's not something that's talked about. And for many people, it's not easily accessible,
Yeah, that's true.
you
That's
know.
true. And the crazy thing is, you gave so much information that we haven't even gotten to the actual questions. So I can only imagine how this interview is about to go down. Okay.
Okay.
Oh
Okay. All
man.
right. I like it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy you said there's Dom Com, because I feel like they have a con for everything. There's Comic Con, there's Santa Con. Like
Yeah.
now when I hear that there's a con of this, I'm like, wow, they have a convention for everything, which is kind of dope because you can find your community either way. But
For real. Yeah. And DomCon is really interesting because it's for everyone, but it specifically caters to dominant women, right? Dominant women, or people who identify as female, right? That's the dominant motif, if you will. And so to have an organization such as that give me that award was really a big honor for me, because it's the recognition of my uh, support of dominant women, my support of people who are trans, and just the lifelong process of that. I've always been in support of that, never been negative or anti strong woman at all.
Mm.
So I felt like they saw that, recognized that, and saw my commitment to it. So I really respect that. That's a award that means a lot to me.
I could tell, and that's awesome. All right, so you gave like a whole big like summary slash explanation about some of the things that you do to make money as a smut lancer. Okay,
Mhm.
so just so you can like give everybody like a nice piece of the pie, I just want
Mhm.
to make sure like I go through it because I know there's more than that than what you've mentioned. So
Yeah.
how do you make money as a smut lancer, and what topic or type of content do you love the most to get paid for?
Um, I am a intimate empowerment coach who specializes in empowerment from the boardroom to the bedroom. You
Mm,
know, for me, working with people and help them realize that they are both worthy and deserving of having what they want and need is a very rewarding thing to me. Most people don't know what they want. And the idea is, if you don't know what you want, it's probably because you already have it, but that's not true. There's a lot of people that don't know what's out there. They haven't seen what it is to be seen, and they haven't got the choices to make. And so for me, I look for what they're craving, what they're hungering for, what their longing is, and I help them connect with it in a way that's safe, sane, and consensual. And then I give them empowerment around it. I want them to make sure that they are able to not only want it, but attain it, have it, and grow from it.
mm.
So for me, that's how I make money in a way that I feel is the most rewarding.
Let's go and let that sit in my spirit a little bit. Awesome. I was like, oh, excuse me. All right. Was but I love that. I love that. And
Thank you.
for anybody who's listening right now or watching, the term smut lancer means somebody who gets paid to talk about or do smut things. So you could be a sex blogger, you could be a professional like dominant, you can be
Mm,
a sex writer, a erotic author, you could be a cam girl. Anybody who gets paid in the sexuality realm or the pleasure realm is a smut lancer.
mm.
So I just want to be clear. So if you hear smut lancer come out, that's what I'm referring to.
That
Yeah.
sounds wonderful. I
Yeah.
think that's absolutely amazing that you guys have a platform where you can give a voice to us who operate in the, let's say, shadows.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Kayla Lords and Molly Moore. Kayla Lords coined it, but Kayla Lords and Molly Moore together run the Small Lancer community. So they're
That
awesome.
sounds that sounds great. I can't wait to try and be a part of it.
Hey, okay. I'm sure they'll love to hear that.
Definitely shout out.
Okay. Well, how long have you been a smut lancer, and when did you get interested in writing sex content or creating content around sex?
Um, it's been about 20 years now. I've been in the game before the internet was a really big thing.
Mm,
And it was important to me to, in the beginning, to reach out to people who looked like me, who shared the same cultural narrative, who shared the same history, who weathered the same amount of oppression, who came from economically disadvantaged communities, and to say that it's not just about survival, it's about enjoyment, it's about
mm,
pleasure, right? We get so caught up in the rat race that we forget that there is something more to life. And I wanted them to know that there's people out there who are trying to pursue happiness, trying to pursue desire, trying to pursue all the things that make the texture of life worth interacting with. So for me, that's when it started. Excuse me.
mm.
Cut that out. um, And that, and it really came about because I was poly and I didn't know anyone else who was. Right. And I was like, could we be the only Black people that are poly? I mean, ever? I mean, is
Mhm.
this a thing? I'd seen it, inklings of it, from family who had a special friend, or you this group of people have that partner that's always around, and maybe they're in the back in the bedroom. It's like, why are three people in the back in the bedroom, hanging out, doing their thing, just not asking questions? But when it came to my attention, that there's other ways of living that are just as valid as monogamy, just as valid as what was there other than monogamy, to be honest with you, that was offered to us? Really nothing. Polygamy or bigamy, maybe, if you really opened yourself to it.
Yeah.
But we found our way into it, and I had a desire for community, and I had to create it.
Mm. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Um, it seems like you dedicated like the majority of your life to kink and to this field. So since you've been in the game like 20 years, are you full-time smutland? Are you part-time? Do you have a day job or a vanilla job?
No,
And okay.
no, I'm full-time, let's say, smut lancer.
Okay.
And basically, my business model is to be here in this space, in this place, in this time, for the people who are looking to have more, who are looking to expand, who are looking for growth. And my job is to make that easier, to help them integrate their desires into their life, to not just know what it is, but to actually find it and integrate it. And so I have to be at my post doing my duty. I'm like a Buddha that sits on your shelf and just waiting for people to come up and start talking. I don't go out and look for clients. If a person comes to me, finds me, and there's congruency, then I'm willing to work with them and help be a part of their evolution. But I want to be a part of that necessary next step, right? You have to already want to look for it. You have to already be searching for it. There has to be a hunger for it. And if there isn't a hunger, then you'll never find me.
Mm.
This is the path of desire. Does that make sense?
Makes a whole lot of sense. In other words, it's like real recognize real. That's how I
Real
take it.
recognize real.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you put yourself at a certain vibration and you want to attract that, that's the only way you can really like be a part of your experience and vice versa. So that's how I took what you just said.
Yeah.
Uh, you know.
In Japan, they have all these little alleys and these little back places, and there may be a restaurant. It may have two seats, and it probably serves the best one thing, right? And
Mhm.
only a few people know about it. But the way you found it was because you were looking for it,
Mhm.
right? And that's my job, is just to be that little hutch on the side of a building, preparing that thing that you didn't know you wanted, right? And
Okay.
if life brings you by me, then we find each other and we have a wonderful time. And I think it's amazing.
Like us. Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
So you're so like open. Even in this conversation, you've been very open with different things.
Thank you.
Um, does your and you mentioned your family. It seems like it's an unspoken thing from what you said. So like, are you open with your family about the work you do, or do you only tell close friends? Are you more public? And I'm assuming this is your pseudonym name, correct?
Yes, Orpheus Black is my pen name. I like to call
Okay.
it my nom de plume. But no, everybody from my kids to my mom to everybody knows what it is that I do. I'm very proud of what I do. And what's interesting to me is that it's important for me to be proud of what I do and not to insist that other people be proud of what I do. I don't experience disappointment in that way because I'm only thinking about my perspective of myself, because I have to live my life, right? And if other people can see what I do is valuable and important, and that I enrich people's lives and I help people connect in ways they're different from what they're used to, then I appreciate them and I recognize them and I feel good about it. Other than that, um, I really don't have a vested interest in what other people think in that way. Right.
Mhm.
With my mother, I'm only hoping that she sees me as a good son, and my kid's a good father. But if in addition they're proud of the work that I do, that's great too. It's just more icing on the cake.
Mm. You just said a lot by saying a little, and I appreciate that. Because we talk a lot about like comparison syndrome, like at least it's becoming more of like a thing on social media, especially using social media with the whole comparison syndrome. But there's a thing about keep your eyes on your own test paper, or make sure that you focus on your wins. That's a lot of what's been happening in the smart Lancet community too. I think Kayla wrote an article about that,
Mhm.
yeah, I think she wrote about it, because it's very easy to do. So the fact that you're just like, hey, like here are the levels I set for myself, and
Mhm.
that's it. Everything else is extra. But as long as like I meet these markers for me, then I'm good to go. And
Mhm.
I really admire that. And I'm sure anybody who's listening or watching is gonna feel the same way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't know that this was what you're talking about is a thing. I think that's where you realize you're starting to get old. You're no
Yeah,
longer a part of the
yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah, I think because you build your own little world,
Yeah.
and I think that's really what it is. Not that a signal of you're getting old, but just like kind of been there, done that, and here's where I'm at. And it's like, oh shit, okay, that's cool. I didn't realize that this is what people struggle with. Oh, I'm happy to help. That's kind of like how
Right.
I interpreted what just happened.
Yeah.
Because you ain't old, you seasoned, and you
Oh,
little
thank you. Thank
okay.
you. Like a
Yeah,
cast iron skillet.
that's what. Yeah, and it has to be Big Mama's cast iron skillet.
There you go. Like Big Mama's cast iron skillet. I love
Yeah.
it.
See what I'm saying? It has to be like, for those of you who don't have a big mama, for your abuela, for your
Mm,
whoever's the matriarch in your family, whatever they cook with, it's about to go down because the
yes.
seasoning all up in it.
Yeah, exactly. We push a lot of intention into those pots. That's the thing that I love about it. When you subscribe to a spiritual path, especially one that's rooted in magic, intention becomes very, very important. So making every aspect of your intimate life intentional is very important. Formality, formal, intentional, ritualistic, all those things are very important. And we've lost a lot of those components as we become more modern. What I want to see is for people to bring the spirit ritual back into sex and sexuality. I want to see more initiation into different organizations, organized ways of being are super important, right? We forget about those things as we move into these worlds of individuality.
Mhm.
We are collectivists by nature. We're people who live amongst people like Ubuntu, right? I am because we are. We can't forget about our narrative and our connection to the whole,
Mm.
right? We are one of many. I am because we are. And then there's a certain amount of accountability on both the individual and both on the community, because it says, if I'm sick, then we're sick, right? I didn't catch this cold from nowhere. It was
Mm.
given to me, right? If I have trauma, you have trauma. I got it from somewhere, right?
Mm.
So we have to look at those older narratives that talk about collectiveness, that speak to the whole, as opposed to just the individual who's just kind of pretending to be whole, pretending to be good, right?
Mm.
I think that's absolutely important as we move into the future.
Yeah, that sounds accurate, especially now because there's an awakening of people going vegan and plant-based, and there's different non-Abrahamic religions that are now being talked about more publicly. Um, such as, witchcraft or, other, magical practices that were once in the shadows are now being spoken about. So putting that awakening, into perspective, and then you saying you think sex should be more, have a spiritual component. I feel like it's already there because the people I follow on social media talk about, sex magic or sacred sex or tantric sex. But I think at least what I'm getting from you is that you would like it to be not just pockets, but just an overall part of the conversation. Am
Correct.
I correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
and here's the thing. I mean, lots of people say this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? But it's important to be that
And
thing.
integrate, like you said before. That's
Yeah.
hard.
You have to live it. You have
Hmm.
to walk it. You have to have a moral compass. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I think is an important word that is often mistaken is autonomy.
Hmm.
Autonomy. The actual idea of autonomy are the laws that govern yourself, the laws you give to yourself to govern your behavior. That is autonomy, right? And so if you say, I need intentionality in my intimacy, I need a person who wants to both worship and be worshiped. I want to feel reverenced and be reverenced. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. And I won't accept anything other than that. That's being principled as well. But we get desperate, we get a little hungry, a craving comes up, and we break our fast, or we go into this space where we forget what we're actually about. And then we're unhappy once we're done with it. We're unsatiated, unfilled. And I think this is why we have so much more quantity of sex than quality of sex, because you have to have so much more in order to get the same amount of nutrition, right? To feel fed. And so if it's a truth in one space, it should work all the way across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, especially how you incorporate Buddhism in your
Mhm.
and BDSM.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I was like, oh shit, this is like awesome,
Yeah.
because I never heard of anybody combining those two things together. And then when you look on your, Twitter, or if you look on your page, it's like you use different Buddhist texts and relate to it.
Yeah.
Even when I first started, before I even, met you, someone recommended you, and one of the things that I remember was a sub looking at grass,
Hmm. A
and
blade of grass. Yeah.
yeah, a blade of grass with the dom. Dom was like, "What are you staring at? What's going on?" And it was like, "I just want to be like the grass. I bend like, and you're like the wind. I
Yeah.
bend as you say I bend." And it's like practicing that principle. I was like, wow, depending on where you're at, that can be looked as controlling.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand BDSM and bondage, or at least want to, because I'm still a novice, to me, it was like that's a spoken agreement that they have. And she wants
Mm-hmm.
to do better with putting up her part of the agreement. And I thought
Right.
that was kind of cool. And that helped me kind of get in a better mind space with the guy I was dealing with at the time. Who formally introduced me, because I'm one of the fans that 50 Shades of Grey put me on, the book, not the movie. Um, put me on, and I was like, cool. But he was the one that actually was like, hey, this is what I do when this was going on. So yeah, I think it's cool the way you integrate and talk about your spiritual practice and your sexual pleasure practice. I think that's pretty dope.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's interesting that people talk about 50 Shades of Grey as if it's bad. And
Yeah,
it's
same.
really not. It's really not. It's not about the quality of the movie, the quality of action, the quality of interaction, or how realistic it is. What it did was make it approachable and made it an option for other people who didn't know that this thing existed.
Mhm.
That's what's important, because before it was 50 Shades of Grey, it was The Secretary. Before it was The Secretary, it was 9.5 weeks. Before it was 9.5 weeks, it was probably The Story of O, right? Before it was that, and you can go on and on and on. Those things are feeders for our community. Without
Mhm.
them, we would not grow. We would all get old and die, and it would just be a blank
Mhm.
chasm, right? So
Right.
it's important that those things act as vehicles for our ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. And I see where people kind of was like, with 50 Shades, like I get it. Because there's certain things about consent that I know people brought up, and I was like, okay, that's valid. But to your point, it was the introduction to the conversation, like it's feasible, it's
Mhm,
attainable. So that
mhm.
was cool. But all the other movies you mentioned, I was like, well, you showing your age. Those I don't know. Those I don't know. The Secretary I heard of. Everything else I'm like, oh, I don't
The
know.
secretary.
I heard about the Secretary. I didn't hear
Well,
about the other ones.
that being said, 9.5 weeks, I was a kid. So, so it's even out of my wheelhouse. But the thing is like there's always this landmark thing that comes about in the society that says, here's a little glance into the underbelly of what it is that we do. Right. And most people are going to be repulsed, and then some people are going to go like, that's not offensive, I'm cool with it, and other people are like, I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to have these things because Hollywood makes subjects approachable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the whole goal of Hollywood, is to make a subject approachable when it's done right, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so when you see this, it's super important to know that these people are coming to you raw, with no knowledge, with no information. They saw a movie, they have a frame and an idea, but it's up to us to educate them. It's up to us to be specific. It's just like when you get a baby, they know that they are hungry and they need to be fed. They don't know what they need to be fed. They don't know how much they should have. They don't know when they should have it. It's up to us to help them with that. And so expecting a movie to do that is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, that's valid. I never heard that perspective, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's a call for smut lancers, sex educators, and the like to step up and be like, hey, so this is cool, but let's fill in the gaps. So I
Exactly.
see that point as well. See that point as well.
Exactly. And so I just welcome that, especially as a person who used to be in entertainment before this. So, you
Ah,
know, I have
yep,
a
yep.
little different perspective on the role of media in kink.
Okay, and that's a great perspective to have. And because clearly you shared it, and I didn't think about it like that, and I was like, oh, makes sense. Now, now, with all that being said, right? When did you realize that this is what you wanted to do professionally? Because literally, you've been in entertainment. You did porn, you did so many different things. What made you realize this is what you want to do professionally?
I always wanted to be, let me try this again. I knew that I wanted to do this professionally when I realized that I couldn't be paid and be myself simultaneously,
Mm, gotta put my
right?
glasses on for that one.
Think about this. Within a hierarchy, or any power dynamic, you have to let go of some autonomy.
Hmm.
You know, ethically, I would say, hey, Chelsea, you have your own set of rules that you use to govern yourself.
Hmm.
What safe container could I provide for you so that you will allow me to give you the laws and the parameters by which you govern yourself? Then Chelsea has a choice to say, okay, yeah, I'm interested. Let's talk about your rules. Okay. As opposed to when you go to a job and you accept a job, they don't tell you that I'm going to tell you when to go to the bathroom, when to go eat, how long you can talk on that phone call, what you can say, what you can't say, how you need to dress, where you need to go. Right. And then I'll pay you in the way that's most convenient for me.
Hmm.
As a dominant, that doesn't sit well with me. Right.
I
And I
understand.
realized if I want to have agency that is actionable, freedom that can be exercised, and maintain my own autonomy, I had to do this for myself. I
Mhm.
didn't want someone tell me when I can pee, when I can eat, what I had to wear. Right. And also, to me, it's not ethical because we didn't discuss it beforehand.
Mm. Okay.
Right? Does that make sense? And
It does
so
1,000%.
when I stepped in here and realized the hierarchy, I'm like, no, I don't wish to do that anymore. And I need to come up with a way of feeding myself so I don't have to live in accordance with someone else's laws and morality.
Yeah, I'm sinking. I'm letting it sink in. This sounds great, just like the Mr. Softy outside if you hear it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I think Mr. Softy feeling this conversation too.
Right. Mr. Softy is making his own money though.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Softy drives down whatever block he wants, sells at whatever price he wants, goes to the bathroom when he wants, takes his break when he wants. That's Mr. Softy. You know what I mean? And I want to be in some ways congruent with that same principle, because freedom in the United States, to have freedom, it means to be punished. To have true freedom will make you pay for it. We will make you pay for it. You are either someone's worker or employee, or you are a problem, right? You're either a good consumer or you are an obstacle towards consumption. I personally want to opt out of that system.
Well, when you got to tell the truth like that, like, I don't just got me thinking about some things, and I'm like, huh, okay, all right, step by right, all right,
You can't
and
learn. I was going to say, you can't learn about power dynamics and not affect every aspect of your life.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
because you always look at it that way. Because I'm naturally a sub, but I can go
Mm-hmm.
into dom when I depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at things in that way too, but then I also don't have a certain amount of autonomy. Now, whether I
Mm-hmm.
choose to use that autonomy depends on my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it goes back to what you were saying too about the system.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you're aware about power dynamics, you're also aware of your agency, and so
Mm-hmm.
how you use it, and so is how you don't. But
Mm-hmm.
it's an ever evolving process, um, and especially now that it's being talked about more.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, too, for a dominant to be subject to that is excruciating in of itself. But I think the idea of power, agency, autonomy in the workplace for a submissive is, do I want to subscribe to you? Do I want to be beholden to you? Do I want you controlling me? That's really what's important. That's the decision that we're making. Someone is going to be in charge to a degree, whether it's 59% or 60 or 100%. But do I have a desire to be governed by you? That's the question. So is that telemarketing room really worth it? Is that who you want to be your dominant for this duration of your life? Or do you need a higher end uh, sense of governance who's going to take you into a place that is empowering, uplifting, and motivational for you? Someone that pushes you to be the best you can, not just for the environment, not just for the organization or the company, but for yourself. When you get empowered like that, whether it's a relationship or an employer, it brings out the best in you. They shape you, they mold you, they make you better. And even when you leave, they've left you better than when you came. To me, that's a great organization. And I would even work for that organization. But most people are slumlords.
Mm. Now, this is the part that if we were in a black church, I would say, you better preach, Pastor. Do a little hand, do a little hand. But
Right.
yeah, that makes sense. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this to me is where my business hits the this is where my business takes over,
Hmm.
because you can see whether it's your sub or a dominant, you can see that the powers at play in the relationship and in
Hmm.
the business, same thing. You're always going to deal with a power dynamic, a power differential. Now, here are your options. Here are your choices. Let's work within that framework so that you can have what you were looking for.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And that is actually like a really nice transition into my next question because um it's like because you have so much insight, like you have so much you can connect what people think is separate to what is actually a part of the whole equation, which is sex.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started after college, I decided I was going to be like a entrepreneur, even though I wasn't, but in my mind I was, because I was working for people who were entrepreneurs and
Mm-hmm.
like me. So one of the things that they said was your business is personal, your personal is business. And we weren't even in the pleasure field, but that's something that earlier on, like I was told.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because when you own your own business or when you go into work for yourself to some capacity, you have to integrate the things that you're learning, and you have to be about that life.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, you gotta be about that life. And it sounds to me like in the way you're communicating this information, like you basically made it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So how, how long, how did you get started, but also how long before you felt like you actually made it?
You know what? I have not made it. I'm making it.
Say more,
You
please.
know,
Say more.
for me, um, this is a lifelong journey, a lifelong path. And what's important is for me to recognize that it doesn't end until someone puts on the grave that this was a very important, very special person who achieved their goals in the end. Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
I've never made it. I'm making it. I'm striving. I'm always pushing to be better. I'm hitting the marks that I've laid out for me, right? And I'm chasing those goals. So for me, I'm never going to get to the point that I've made it, but I'm always going to be in the process of becoming better. I think that that's more important than this idea that there's a number, a magic number, a business, a thing that once I get it, I'm done. Not looking for that. I'm looking to uh, be and become better than I was before.
Mm.
That's it. In every aspect of my life, be $100 richer than you are today. Get an hour more love than you had yesterday. You know, have sex 5 minutes longer than you did the day before. Keep going, keep getting more. Incrementally, keep doing it, right? And you'll be happy. If every day you made $100 more than you did the day before, how much money would you have? 500, 700 more. Then it goes, 1,400, 2,100 more than you did before. That's the amount. That's the model I'm looking for. That's the model I'm chasing every day to have a little bit more.
Mm. But how did you start at that model? Like, how did
Oh,
you actually get started to get to that point? Because a lot of people look at, because you've been in the game for a while, so a lot of people like look at your now and just look at that snapshot. They don't know, how you got started and like the beginning Orpheus to get to the point where you are now.
you know what? It started with a person saying you have to get out of that poverty mindset that you have. Like you're still thinking like a poor person.
See, that pissed me off, but I'm happy it inspired you. Because I think that's so condescending and it's so like demeaning. It's like, well, cool, but if that's all you know, like, and of course get out of it. This is not me saying like, have a a scarcity or a limited mindset, but to just say that, it's like, to me is demeaning. But I'm happy that you used it as motivation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was pissed because
Perfect.
he could have framed it in a different way, but honestly, what I had to understand was that it's not about scare. It's not necessarily about scarcity. It's about letting lack or privation motivate your behaviors in a way that's not beneficial to who you are.
Yeah, but that's a
Private,
privilege.
huh?
I say, yeah, but that's a privilege, like that in and of
No,
itself, that thinking is a privilege. You disagree?
I disagree.
I say
I
more.
disagree. Privation was coined by Freud and really enhanced by Cameron Ashby. Privation is the primordial mover and shaper of behavior. It is to be born with a trauma. Let me give you the definition. Privation happens when a person is born without a thing that they interpret to be essential to their existence. Let me say that again. Privation happens when a person is born without something that is essential, that they feel is essential to their existence. Okay. Why is that important? Because, like a person who is born without a father, they will try to find father figures in their life, even though they've never had one, don't know if they like one, don't know if they need one. It shapes their behavior. That has nothing to do with privilege. It has everything to do with lack, with being devoid of something that I feel should be essential to me. I was born into a situation that was devoid of a support system that would give me a foundation to build on. And so, since I thought from this space that I was never going to have a platform to work from, I have no foundation to move forward on, then I personally couldn't see a way out of anything. I never gave myself time to invest in me.
Mm.
I never gave myself time to invest in me. And so without those investments, I had a poverty mindset.
But can we also argue that there's social structures in place that prevent people from actually focusing on investing in themselves?
You can, but there's people who are rich have privations, because you can have a rich man whose father died before they were born,
Okay.
and that privation exists, right? You can have a person whose mother died at birth. There's a privation. Privation exists in every strata. It just so happens that mine was foundational financial. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Everybody has some form of privation. But until someone points it out to you and says, hey, here's the hole that you're trying to fill, nothing you stuff in there is going to fill it. And it's shaping your behavior. If no one points it out, then you'll never take care of it. He had to point it out to me. He had to say, look, this is a thing that you're doing, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what type of father you had or why he wasn't there or the situation, the construct. This is the thing that you're doing. And if you want to be successful, you have to stop doing it. Right. So, give you an example. There's lots of people in our community who go over to gangs, who sell drugs, who look up to people on the block, and we can say it's due to privation, because we have discipline, we have morality, we have people who care, we have people that want to keep you off the block. All that's there. So if we have all that, what is it really doing? Sometimes we're chasing father figures. I want to be like him. He took time to talk to me. He's like a father to me. He wouldn't tell me something that's wrong. Right. And we keep locking ourselves into that same cycle, looking for someone to fill that role. And it takes us down the wrong path.
Mm.
Right. So for me, you have to sometimes say, oh, that's what's happening. That's why I wound up here. That's why I don't have. And I need to stop that behavior. Right. So I started investing in myself. The investments started to pay off. And then I started to see a return on it. Once I started to see that return, I started reinvesting in myself, right? In those things. In that process of investing and reinvesting in myself, helped pull me out of the impoverished mindset or that privatory mindset that I was stuck in. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. It's an interesting perspective that, um, I haven't heard broken down in this way.
Mm.
People have probably tried, but I probably wasn't in the space to hear it. And I'm just gonna be real,
Right.
it's a possibility. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the way
Mm-hmm.
you broke it down, it makes a lot of sense. Because what I'm hearing you say is, at the end of the day, there's gonna be like circumstances are going to be struggles. There's going to be things that, you know, we were born just without. But
Mhm.
it's about recognizing that and figuring out how to do our best to just live our best lives, invest in ourselves, and actually make happen the things we want to make happen. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly. And here's the thing. It's like, I'm not here to say that there's not systems. I'm not here to say there's not struggle. I'm not saying that there's not privilege. I'm saying that what I'm talking about is something that I'm doing to me. Maybe it's as a result of those other things, but I have to stop harming me.
Mm-hmm.
That has to stop. I
And that's
didn't,
different for everybody.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
For
So when
everybody.
you stop talking about, okay, a system started, a system got you harming yourself, but now you have to stop self-harming.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. The system is going to do its thing, and I can rally and fight against it, and that's great, but still I have to stop harming me. The cycle of abuse has to stop now,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to start with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
And everybody's self-harm is going to be different.
everybody's self-harm is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's privation and deprivation are going to be different, because deprivation is a secondary mover of behavior and motivator of behavior, right? When you think someone took something from you, and that starts to shape behavior. We see that easy in like revenge, right? So if you think someone took your economic well-being, if someone says that they took your status in society, if someone took, it's going to produce behavior.
Right.
So now that you know that, what do you do about it?
And that answer is different for everybody as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
because it's not a one size fits all.
it's not. It's not. But if you want to be successful, whatever that behavior is, if it's not beneficial to you, then you need to stop doing it to you.
Mm.
Right? That's
Yep.
it. Right. And deprivation has worked with activism all along. Like there's lots of people who went through horrible things. They had their kids taken from them. They had their brothers and sisters, and or they just saw something happen, and it motivated them to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It motivated them to go out, be on TV, and take it to the next level, or go to college. Sometimes the behavior is beneficial, but for me, economically, it wasn't.
Got it.
Mm,
Got you. So
that's a
with
lot.
that, it's a lot, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. Clearly, it was wanted and needed in the space. So I'm happy that we went there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I
Um,
can I add one more thing?
you sure can.
Hippocrates, I believe it's Hippocratic oath. Hippocrates said, a person can't be healthy until they're willing to be without the thing that makes them sick.
So you just gonna drop that bomb real quick, and it's not even an end. That's crazy. that
Right?
that's crazy.
So I couldn't heal until I got rid of the behavior that was making me sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And that's what it comes down to. Never mind what the cause is. Let's talk about the sickness. And if I'm ready to be without it, because there's a lot of people who derive a sense of identity from their pain, identity from their sickness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can have it as long as you want, as long as it's beneficial or working for you, or you're not willing to change it or confront it, whatever. But when you are ready to change, when you are ready to let it go, let me or someone like me help you.
Hmm. Yeah, that whole part.
Yeah.
That whole part.
I'm gonna bottle drop right now.
That's a nice bottle. Please don't drop it and crack it and break it. Okay, that's a nice bottle. Okay.
Right, right.
So, because again, the wisdom is just coming out the woodworks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, thank
What
you
is
so much.
of course, yeah.
Thank
Um,
you.
but what's one thing you wish you would have known when you started creating content about sex or became a smut lancer? Because clearly you wasn't just out the gate in this space. So what is one thing you wish you would have known when you first started creating content or becoming a smut lancer, that maybe you would have got to the space you are now, maybe a little faster?
That whatever you write is out there forever. And no matter how much your opinions change, no matter how much your thoughts change that it's out there now, and someone is going to take it and interpret it, and it may come back and haunt you. You know what I mean? It's really important because I've had the book The Enzo for a long time, and when I produced that book with the help of Cameron Ashby, rest in peace. Um, Almost instantly after it was produced, I was like, oh my God, like there's so many things that I want to say that I didn't say. I should have said this. I should have twisted that. I should have done this thing. And now it's out there and it's a very real thing in the world, and it's shaping ideas and opinions about you. It's
Mm.
polarizing people as we speak. There's no book that's worth anything that doesn't polarize people. People are going to like it or not like it. They're going to like you or not like you. You know what I mean? They're going to shape their ideas about you. And that's a book. Can you imagine now how many posts we can post, blog things that we can do, things that we can put out there? And
Mhm.
once it's out there, even if you can change it instantly, someone saw it, someone screenshotted it, someone did a thing, and now you can't take it back. That genie's not going back in the bottle. And at your worst moment, at the lowest time of your life, this thing is going to be held against you in the public opinion court of law.
Yeah, that's true. That is
So,
so true.
yeah. So I definitely am all about the if write it, read it, reread it, sleep on it, come back to it before you send it, read it again. You know what I mean?
Ah,
And then let it go and let whatever happen happen.
right. No, I get that. And honestly, that's also I was listening to a podcast called the Missing Witches podcast, and they had an author on, Amanda Yates Garcia, I believe that's her
Mm,
name.
mm,
And that's one of the things that she mentioned. Like, oh wow, like there's so much I did say, but there's certain things that she says she wish she would have like added, or maybe had has a different perspective on now,
mhm,
you know. But she also said that's also just room for another book.
mhm. Well, you know what? There's an old adage. I forgot who said it, but no facts exist outside of context.
Mm,
And if you're not taking the time to shape and really build the context within the parameters of what you're writing, then it doesn't matter, especially in this stage where facts are like not necessary anymore. There's a lot of people who don't feel that they're necessary or relevant anymore, right? So you have to shape context. Context is essential to communicating in this day and age. One of the things about porn, when I was getting out of it, was people were like, well, we need to see condoms. If we're not seeing condoms, you're not being responsible. And if it's not responsible, then we don't want it anymore. And it's like,
mm,
shit. Well, can you give me some more context around that? Because I hear a lot of opinion at this point in time. I need to see how many people want to see that. How many people, how many videos that have it in there are selling right now? Um, can you please provide me with more understanding? Really, that's what context is. Like frame it up, support it, give me a reason, give me motivation. I need things, not just arbitrary facts or stuff that you believe is factual, right? Because then it's opinion, right? So you got to be able to go in and support what it is that you're saying and do it in a way that creates a frame that helps most of your readers understand. I really subscribe to the 70-30 rule. If I can get 70% of the people to understand what it is I'm saying, then I did my job.
that's a good rule.
You know, that's all I need. I just need 70%.
Yeah, that's a good rule. Okay, that's a good rule.
Thank you.
Okay. And before we go into our rapid fire questions, I have one question to wrap up the rest
Okay.
before my rapid fire. In a perfect world, what would you want your legacy to be as a smut lancer? Haha.
I I want disadvantaged communities around the world to open their minds in a way that is reflective of their desires.
Mm. I want to say more about that, but I feel like that sums it up. I feel like that's a pretty straightforward answer. Um, but yeah, I'm just like, ooh, I want to know more.
Mm.
um, say that one more time for the people in the back, just to get it in my head.
I'm going to try. I want disadvantaged people to open their minds in a way that is reflective of their desires. I
Mm,
want them to think about their world in a way that is reflective of the way they want to interact with it. Don't just touch it in the way that you've been told to touch. Don't just live in the way that you've been dictated to. Search your wants, your needs, your desires, and then try to live in a way that is congruent with your wants, needs, and desires. You don't have to live the way you've been told to.
mm. That's awesome. I know I keep saying awesome, but I'm just like I'm literally letting it sink in, because that was beautifully said.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that so much.
of course. Now, disclaimer. This is the first time I'm actually going to say this is a rapid fire question, but I'm
Okay.
interested to see what your mind goes to and what
All
you
right.
say if we put a little pressure on it. All right.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. So, first question: what do you absolutely need to have when you're ready to sit down and work? So, snacks and type of environment, blankets, clothes, accessories. Go.
Tea.
Okay. T. All right. No candles or nothing because you got a lot of candles in the back. You can name more. You can name 3 things. I'll let you name 3 things. I'll let you
No,
name 3.
I need my tea. I fidget. And so if I'm sitting down to work, I need something in my hand to do. And that's my cup, my fidget cup. This is my thing that I have to do. The cup maybe stay filled all day, to be honest with you. But I need to have something that I'm picking up in my hands and going, let me think. And that's what I do.
Okay. All right, great. Who or what inspired you to be a smut lancer?
Who or what inspires me to be a smut lancer?
Inspired. Yep.
Man, this is going to be big. Sor Juana Inez de la
Say it
Cruz.
again.
Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz.
Mm,
She was a woman who lived out loud before it was even something that you could think about doing. She's the first feminist to exist in the Western world, and she spoke truth to power in a way that was congruent with her identity. And I wanted to be like her.
mm. All right. Name the best, strangest, funniest, wildest thing you've ever experienced as a smut lancer from a client, someone online, anyone. Go. First thing that comes to mind.
First thing that comes in mind, man, but it wasn't a client thing.
I'm about to say that will not get you in trouble because you signed an NDA. Okay.
That's another thing.
It could be a client, someone online, anything.
A client, someone online.
Yeah.
Best and wildest. I don't understand the question. Best and wildest. The best
Or
is not the
the best,
wildest, and the
strangest,
wildest is not
funniest. Either one. Either
best.
one.
Oh, either one.
Yeah, either one.
Um, I worked in the phone sex place and met a guy who had lost his partner to HIV. And he called me because he had never slept. He hadn't slept alone in 20 years. And he wanted to just listen to me talk while he fell asleep for the first night. And that was the best phone call I had as a sex phone call worker. And it changed who I was fundamentally. I'll never be the same. That was the most important thing because it really helped me to get out of this idea that I was performing masculinity. I was performing heterosexuality. This was all a game that someone told me. And also this idea that homosexuality was something that was done to you. It was a
Mm.
result of not performing heterosexuality correctly. And that shook me loose of this social narrative that I have, that being a man looks like this and being a man does that, and this is the requirements, and if you you can be penalized for doing it wrong. I heard a human being speaking to me from a very human place, and that was the most authentic and life-changing thing that I ever had.
Mm. Shit, that just changed me a little bit. Like, damn. Uh, I would have never thought that phone sex could go that deep, but
Oh yeah.
I love that it did. I,
Mm.
I love that it did. And then last but not least, what are some social charitable causes that are close to your heart and connected to your work as a small lancer that you want to shout out? Go.
Woo.
It's rapid
Man,
fire, so I'll let you name three, four that you got to at least name one.
I don't know that I can.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think that can, because all the ones that I wanted are gone now. They went away during COVID, so
Oh, please shout them out anyway, because you never know. They could come back, or maybe somebody could reach out. Like,
they're
who knows?
gone. The people died that ran the organizations, and
Oh, that got dark real quick. Okay.
yeah, so they passed. I'm at that age where people are starting to, transition, and especially during an epidemic. I'm 47, but most of the people I knew were older than me. And
Mm,
so I lost so many people during COVID. It was ridiculous. And most of the people who are doing the most work were the people who died first, and they were small mom and pop little shops, and they passed. And they had one. um it was like something like the People's Kinky Credit Union, and basically he would take donations, and as people who were in kink fell on hard times, they would fund give them rent money or whatever to get them on their feet. And this person would do auctions and do this donations. Sometimes he took it out of his own pocket, what I
wow.
mean? And so now that he's passed, there's a lot of people who won't have those opportunities. And but there's not that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of people doing great work out there. I will say, I would like to shout out Mr. Cyan over at Sanctuary, who's always doing charitable work. Everything that we can do to support her is supporting the community. From she does can drives, and she does clothing drives, and she does fundraisers for all the LGBTQ and leather organizations. She does great work with trans outreach. She does
Mm,
so much stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. And she had her bout of cancer, and she's beat it, and she's back, and she's powerful, and she's going to go into this new 2020 and 2021, blowing the doors off. I think she's going to kill it. So I always want to shout her out. Uh, and that's Sanctuary LAX, and that's Mistress Cyan, because she's just incredible.
mm, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So thank you so much, Orpheus Black. It was a pleasure talking to you on today. Is there anything that you want to promote or anything that you're want people to know about that you're doing? Before.
Yeah. I would love people to go to orpheusblack.com and look at our offerings, see what we do. We have these amazing package deals where we do a kink 101 and a fetish 101 to help people get their feet wet, to really get a good sense of what it means to be in kink, what it means to be in fetish. And I think it's important because we will have children and friends and family who are exploring. And it's good to have a frame. It's good to be able to kind of coach them or help them along. And this is a great opportunity to get hands on ways of doing it. We also have coaching packages for people who want to coach kink. So if you're interested in reaching at other people, improving your demographics, improving your market share, and you're a coach, I want you to come to and take our classes so you can open your doors and your offerings to people who want to explore the darker side of sexuality.
I love it. All right, Orpheus. Thank you so much again. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Me too. You be good and you have a wonderful day.
You too.